in light of Ellen DeGeneres' statement on why it's okay to be friendly with Conservatives, I wanted to debunk a couple of falsehoods that have taken hold in recent years. The notion that the ugly hostility of our polarised political climate, one that sees people defriended, deplatformed and disavowed for their beliefs, is a both sides problem, is a falsehood that must not go unchallenged. Pretending that both the left and the right are equally culpable is not a nuanced view, it is demonstrably false. When author and sex therapist Bettina Arndt gave a speech at La Trobe University last year, howling mobs screamed and banged on windows in an attempt to drown her out. At Sydney University, the riot police had to be called. And yet, the Vice-Chancellor there, Michael Spence, attempted a pathetic both sides defence to explain the rising climate of censorship at universities. He said, "This notion that the left has gone crazy and nobody can talk, I don't identify that. I think the left has gone crazy and the right has gone crazy." Excuse me? When is the last time a leftist speaker was shouted down or their audience needed police protection to enter a university or any other venue? The left-leaning speakers do not require riot squads to keep protesters away and are not presented with massive bills from police for being victims of the violent activists. Mainstream Conservatives are subjected to unhinged activists who feel entitled to bully and intimidate not only them, but their audience. Andrew Bolt is Australia's most read columnist and, of course, a popular presenter on Sky News. But his book launch in his home city of Melbourne had to be cancelled due to the threat posed by leftist protesters. When is the last time someone from the left had to cancel their book launch because of credible fears of violence from Conservatives? Even the most fringe-dwelling lefties can give speeches or hold events without any security concerns. It's time to dispense the both sides fallacy. Of course, there are a few random whack jobs on the right who are guilty of similar idiocy, but they are a minuscule minority with no presence and have had no impact on public discourse. The hostility, intolerance and rejection of civility is coming from one side. It's unhealthy and it's starting to destroy relationships. On 2GB and 4BC, we regularly have talkback callers who say politics is damaging their family relationships, particularly with the young, who think if you don't share the catastrophic views of climate change, border protection or Australia Day, you must be an awful person. We've seen the same phenomenon in the UK with the Brexit and Remain camps, and in the US with not only Republicans and Democrats, but also the pro and anti-Trump voters. In Australia, the ugliness has seen the Prime Minister labelled a bad dad by child psychologist Steve Biddulph for supposedly being outrageously insensitive in not listening to child protesters. Now, Biddulph has form for error-prone columns pushing fringe leftist views, and yet he is invited to speak at schools without incident. But civility cannot remain a one-way street. Early this week, Ellen DeGeneres won lavish praise for behaving like a normal human being. Our expectations of celebrities must be pretty low when we applaud them for behaving like adults capable of decency and rationality. DeGeneres won plaudits for calmly explaining why it's acceptable to be friendly with those who don't share your views, after she copped a flood of online abuse from the left for the crime of enjoying a football game with former President George W. Bush in Dallas. DeGeneres leans left, fairly heavily left, and has been active in promoting Democrats. But even that did not save her from the feral lynch mob. It's instructive that Bush faced no similar hate for being friendly with an ideological opponent. There was no conservative columns decrying Bush's betrayal for normalising DeGeneres and her politics. Even after her call for kindness and civility, Ellen DeGeneres continues to be abused by segments of the left. Avengers actor Mark Ruffalo, Oscar winner Susan Sarandon, comedian David Cross were among those who continued their criticism, along with a number of writers and academics, including Professor Preston Mitchell, who posted this of DeGeneres. One day you all will believe me when I say the greatest threat to the United States are white women who believe they're good. The greatest threat. Vox, Vanity Fair, Out Magazine and a number of other publications have written scathing pieces on Ellen and her call for civility. So-called progressives have deluded themselves into believing they're tolerant and open-minded, but too many in their ranks display a tyrannical streak where opposing views are forbidden along with those who hold them.